The horizon at sea is supposed to mean freedom, an unbroken line of blue where the sky kisses the water, endless and untouchable. But for the men and women stationed on oil rigs, that horizon can also mean danger. Out there, far beyond sight of land, the shimmer of a fast-moving boat can carry the promise of terror. It doesn't take much, just a silhouette where none should be, a motor cutting against the waves, or the sudden flicker of lights in the dead of night. On an oil rig, that's how the nightmare begins. Oil platforms are marvels of human engineering, floating cities that drill into the seabed and produce the lifeblood of modern civilization. They're designed to withstand storms, earthquakes, and crushing waves. But they weren't built with pirates in mind. When hostile boats approach, crews are cut off from the world, standing on a steel island hundreds of miles from the nearest safe harbor. There are no police to call, no neighbors to run to, no back roads to slip away through. The ocean itself becomes the prison, and the only thing between survival and disaster is preparation. For most people, the word pirate conjures up images of wooden ships and flags marked with skulls. The reality is much colder. Today's maritime raiders travel in fiberglass speedboats, armed with automatic weapons and rocket-propelled grenades. They are organized, ruthless, and desperate. A floating oil platform is not just a symbol of wealth, it is a prize. The crew are hostages, waiting to be taken, their lives bargaining chips in a high-stakes game that plays out far from the headlines. The threat isn't theoretical. In waters off West Africa, oil workers have been kidnapped at gunpoint, ferried to shore, and held for ransom. In Southeast Asia, pirates use the cover of night to scale rigs and seize supplies. These attacks are swift and terrifying, often lasting only minutes, but leaving scars that last a lifetime. And when you're out there, the question isn't if an attack could happen, it's how you'll respond when it does. The first sign is usually radar, a blip that moves too fast, too directly, toward the rig. Sometimes it's the deckhands who spot them first, dark shapes riding low on the waves, cutting a path with precision. When the call comes, approaching vessel, everything changes. The rig transforms in seconds from a workplace into a fortress. Floodlights blaze, barriers close, and workers who, only moments earlier, were handling drills or repairing valves, now rush to emergency safe rooms designed for exactly this scenario. This is the reality of life offshore. Storms and machinery may test the body, but piracy tests the mind. Out here, survival depends not on brute strength, but on calm discipline, on the ability to face fear without letting it take over. Because when pirates attack, there is no cavalry charging in to save you. There is only steel, silence, and the people standing at your side. The ocean is vast, but not every stretch of it is equally dangerous. Piracy has strongholds, hot zones, where law enforcement is thin, governments are weak, and desperate men see ships and rigs as floating banks waiting to be robbed. For oil platforms, two regions are notorious. The first is the Gulf of Guinea, off the coast of West Africa. These waters supply a significant portion of the world's oil, but they're also plagued by instability and organized crime. Here, pirate groups are not ragged bands acting on impulse. They're networks, armed with military-grade weapons, using GPS, radios, and sometimes even insider intelligence to plan their attacks. Hostages taken from oil rigs are often marched through mangrove swamps and held for ransom in hidden camps. Millions of dollars change hands in negotiations, while the crew endure weeks or months in captivity. The second is Southeast Asia, especially the waters around Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. These straits are among the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Pirates here move quickly, often targeting smaller supply vessels and crew boats connected to rigs. They know that even if they can't hold an entire platform hostage, they can still steal equipment, food, and fuel, or abduct workers before vanishing into labyrinthine coastlines where law enforcement rarely follows. Why are rigs such tempting targets? It comes down to isolation. An oil platform is like a small city frozen in the middle of the ocean, visible for miles but immobile. A ship can change course. A yacht can speed away, but a rig is anchored in place, unable to flee, surrounded by open water on all sides. For pirates, it's like attacking a castle without a moat, except the castle is filled with workers who are not soldiers, but engineers, cooks, and technicians. Knowing this, oil companies have turned survival into an art form. Security begins long before a pirate skiff is even visible. Perimeter radars sweep the horizon continuously, watching for fast-moving boats. Floodlights and high-mounted cameras track the waters around the platform day and night. Some rigs install razor wire or electrified fences along the lower decks to make boarding nearly impossible. Others use water cannons powerful enough to smash apart small boats before they reach the hull. But even the most advanced defenses can only do so much. Pirates are persistent, and they adapt. Which is why the most important line of defense isn't the steel or the weapons, it's the crew. Every worker who sets foot on a rig undergoes anti-piracy training. They learn how to recognize suspicious vessels, how to move quickly into lockdown positions, and how to navigate the rig under pressure when seconds count. The goal is not to fight back directly. Oil rig crews aren't mercenaries, but to buy time, seal themselves in, and wait for naval help. And that's the grim truth. Even with satellite phones and emergency beacons, military rescue forces can take hours, sometimes days, to arrive. In that gap between first contact and possible rescue, the crew are on their own. Their survival depends on the structure they live in, the drills they've practiced, and their ability to trust one another completely. It usually begins with a dot on the horizon. At first, it's nothing, a speck of white in the endless blue. The radar shows a return, but the sea is crowded, and not every boat is a threat. Supply vessels bring food, spare parts, and fresh workers almost daily. Fishing trawlers drift across shipping lanes, chasing schools of tuna. But the veterans on board know the difference. They've learned to trust their instincts. The suspicious boat is moving too fast. Its wake cuts through the water in a straight, determined line, aimed directly at the rig. No cargo containers weigh it down, no fishing nets drag behind it. And as it closes the distance, the sound of its engines rises, loud enough to reach the deck above the ocean swell. The alarm is raised. A shrill klaxon echoes through every corridor of the platform, shaking men and women from their routines. In the kitchen, knives are dropped mid-chop. In the drilling module, machines are left humming unattended. Everyone knows what it means. The code word for a possible attack is transmitted over the intercom, repeating in a measured voice. It doesn't cause panic, but it does cause movement. Drills take over. Every crew member has a role, and now those rehearsed motions snap into place. Security personnel rush to monitoring stations, zooming cameras onto the approaching vessel. The bridge radios for military assistance, broadcasting coordinates, and reporting the speed and bearing of the target. At the same time, doors and hatches begin slamming shut across the rig. Metal lock seal corridors. Reinforced safe rooms called citadels are readied with water, food, and communication gear. On the outer decks, defensive measures activate. Powerful floodlights blast across the waves, blinding the oncoming boat. Sirens wail through the salt air. The rig's fire hoses, massive streams of pressurized water, swing into position, ready to blast anyone who gets too close. Some modern rigs deploy long-range acoustic devices, shrieking with ear-splitting tones that disorient intruders. But pirates are not easily deterred. As the small boat roars closer, the crew can now make out figures inside. They're masked, crouched low, rifles balanced across their knees. One of them points, directing the others. They're not improvising, they know exactly what they're after. The workers inside the rig feel the weight of that moment. They know they are not soldiers. They are fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. Ordinary people trained in extraordinary survival. And yet here they are, standing behind steel walls, listening to the approach of men who would take them hostage for ransom. Or worse, the pirates gun their engines harder. The hull slams against the waves, leaping forward as though trying to launch itself up the side of the platform. They're closing the last 100 meters fast. The crew hear the thud of impact as grappling hooks arc through the air, clanging onto railings. Thick ropes whip tight as attackers prepare to climb. For the crew inside, every second now stretches into an eternity. Some grip radios, their knuckles white. Others whisper prayers into the stale air of sealed rooms. No one speaks above a whisper, because the sound of boots on steel could come at any moment. What happens next will depend on preparation, courage, and chance. Because once pirates set foot on the rig, the thin line between safety and captivity begins to blur. The first metallic clang echoes across the deck as a grappling hook locks onto the railing. The steel cable tightens, and a masked figure begins hauling himself upward, boots scraping against the rig's outer frame. A second hook follows, then a third. In the span of minutes, the platform is no longer just an industrial outpost, it's a battleground. From inside the control room, security feeds display the unfolding scene. Cameras mounted along the rig's perimeter track the attackers as they climb, their rifles slung across their backs, their movements practiced and efficient. The crew huddled in safe rooms, watch through monitors, their hearts pounding. The pirates are no longer a distant threat on the horizon. They are on the walls of the rig, scaling their way toward the lives hidden inside. The defensive measures kick in with everything the crew has. Water cannons roar to life, unleashing torrents of seawater at the intruders. The jets slam into one of the climbers, knocking him backward into the waves. But another pirate swings wide, gripping the steel with iron determination, climbing higher despite the spray. Sirens continue to scream, but the attackers press forward. Then comes the first breach. A pirate swings his leg over the railing and lands on the deck. He crouches low, weapon raised, scanning for movement. His companions join him, their boots clattering against the metal as they fan out. The rig, usually filled with the clamor of machinery, feels unnervingly silent, every pump and motor drowned out by the sound of intruders. Inside the citadel, crew members listen. They can hear the faint echo of footsteps above them, the distant slam of a door being kicked open. Radios buzz quietly as the security team relays the attackers' positions. Each update ratchets the tension higher. The pirates are moving quickly, searching for leverage. They want hostages, and they know where to look. For those hiding in sealed rooms, time slows. One worker presses her ear against the steel bulkhead, hearing voices speaking in a language she doesn't know. Another grips a wrench, the closest thing to a weapon he has. They're trained not to resist if discovered the company drilled it into them. Life is worth more than equipment. But the human instinct to survive wrestles with fear, and every sound feels like the last warning before the door bursts open. On the upper decks, the security coordinator takes a calculated risk. He triggers the rig's acoustic device, unleashing a bone-rattling wave of sound across the platform. The high-pitched blast pierces the night air, forcing the attackers to clutch their heads. Some stagger, momentarily disoriented. It buys seconds, precious seconds, but not enough. The pirates regroup quickly, signaling one another with hand gestures before pushing deeper inside. A confrontation is inevitable. At one access point, the intruders force a steel door with crowbars, sparks flying as they wrench it from its frame. On the other side, a skeleton security team waits, not with firearms, but with heavy beams and non-lethal deterrents. The clash is brutal. A blast of pressurized water strikes one attacker, sending him sprawling backward, but another swings a weapon, forcing the defenders to retreat. For the crew trapped in safe rooms, the sound of struggle reverberates through the metal walls. It is raw, chaotic, and terrifying. Every shout, every bang, reminds them that they are balanced on the edge of danger. Some whisper prayers, others grip each other's hands in silence. But there is one hope. As the attackers push deeper, the rig's distress call has already reached the outside world. Naval vessels in the region, along with private security escorts, are rushing toward the coordinates. The question is whether they will arrive in time. The climax hangs in that uncertainty. Pirates on deck, crew locked away, defenses strained to their limit. One side fighting for ransom, the other fighting for survival. And the vast ocean offers no shelter, only the echo of waves against steel as the rig braces for the next move. The ocean carries sound in ways that seem unreal. Long before anyone on the rig sees them, the steady thrum of helicopter blades rolls across the night. At first faint, then undeniable. Help is coming. The pirates hear it too. On deck, faces harden, eyes flicking toward the horizon. They've done this before, taken crews, boarded tankers, but this feels different. This is no freighter. This is a fortress. From a naval escort cutting through the waves, floodlights flare. A booming voice follows. This is the Coalition Task Force. Disarm and disengage immediately. The command echoes across steel decks. Inside the Citadel, workers who've been holding their breath for hours finally let it out. Some crying, others clutching radios. Relief mingles with dread. A cornered man is often the most dangerous. On the upper platform, the pirates argue. Push deeper, grab hostages, or cut their losses. Searchlights sweep across the rig, and the decision is made for them. Commandos descend from helicopters, armed and relentless. The attackers scatter, some surrendering, others diving back into the sea, swallowed by the night. For the crew, the release is overwhelming. Locked doors swing open, naval teams clear the rig, confirming safety one corridor at a time. Workers emerge into the glare of spotlights, hugging fiercely or standing in stunned silence, staring at breached doors and abandoned weapons. The reality of how close they came hangs heavy in the salt air. The naval commander offers only a few words. You did well. You held. And it's true. The rig was saved not just by military might, but by discipline, calm, and unity. By dawn, the sirens are silent. The machinery hums again. Life resumes, but no one forgets. The ocean tested them, and together, they endured. Far from land, oil rigs are more than machines drilling the seabed. They are islands of human endurance, places where survival is tested not only by storms, but by threats that come armed and sudden. When pirates strike, it isn't technology alone that holds the line. It's the unity and discipline of the crew. Day after day, these men and women climb out of their bunks, knowing the risks. They drill, they prepare, they trust one another. And when danger arrives, they respond not as scattered individuals, but as one body, moving with precision and resolve. That unity is what turns steel and sea into a fortress. The world rarely sees it. A headline may mention a hijacking or a rescue, but the real story is written in silence, workers barricading themselves inside, standing shoulder to shoulder, refusing to break. Survival at sea is not glamorous. It is a duty carried out in fear, in courage, and in faith that tomorrow will come. So when we think of oil rigs, we should think not only of fuel and industry, but of the people who guard them in the shadows of the ocean. Because when pirates attack, survival depends not on weapons or walls, but on the unbreakable will of the crew, men and women who refuse to yield, no matter how dark the waters become.